For more than 10,000 years, the Galactic Concord had ruled peacefully across thousands of star systems, connecting countless species through trade, science, and diplomacy. During that time, many old stories had been forgotten, dismissed as myths created by civilizations that barely understood space travel. Among those stories was the legend of humanity. Ancient records described a species that came from a distant blue planet called Earth, a world supposedly located beyond the edges of known space. Most scholars considered those records meaningless. The few remaining references to humans were stored in forgotten archives, covered in dust and ignored by modern historians. Many believed humans had never existed at all. Some thought they were fictional heroes invented to inspire courage during ancient wars. Others believed the stories were simply mistranslations from lost languages. Director June, a respected xenoarchaeologist, had spent most of his life studying ancient civilizations, and even he had never expected to find anything that would change the galaxy's understanding of history. Alongside his research partner Mira, one of the brightest scientists in the Concord, he traveled to a remote world near the edge of explored space. The planet had once been home to a civilization that disappeared thousands of years earlier. Their ruins covered entire continents, and many secrets still waited beneath the surface. June and Mira hoped to uncover evidence about the lost builders, but what they found was something far greater. Deep beneath a ruined city, hidden behind layers of stone and metal, they discovered a chamber untouched for millennia. Strange symbols covered the walls, and at the center stood a massive crystalline device that still glowed with faint energy. When Mira activated the machine, beams of light filled the room and formed a three-dimensional star map unlike anything they had ever seen. The map displayed regions beyond known space, areas completely absent from modern charts. One location pulsed with a bright blue light. Below it appeared a single ancient word translated into modern language. The word was Terra. June stared at the projection in silence. The name matched one of the oldest references connected to the human legends. At first, he assumed it was a coincidence, but further analysis revealed something impossible. The map was over 12,000 years old. That meant whoever created it had known about Terra long before the formation of the Galactic Concord. News of the discovery spread quickly among academic circles, though many experts remained skeptical. Some claimed the map was corrupted. Others insisted Terra was merely a symbolic location. While scholars debated, events elsewhere in the galaxy were becoming increasingly dangerous. The Dominion, a powerful military empire located on the outer frontier, had begun expanding aggressively. Under the leadership of High Commander Day, Dominion fleets conquered neighboring systems one after another. Entire worlds surrendered without resistance, fearing destruction. The Concord attempted negotiations, but every diplomatic effort failed. Day believed the galaxy could only achieve order through absolute control. As Dominion forces advanced deeper into neutral territory, concerns spread among member worlds. Military leaders warned that a large-scale war might be unavoidable. Amid this growing tension, Mira continued studying the ancient star map. She noticed patterns hidden within the coordinates, mathematical sequences embedded inside the data. After months of analysis, she uncovered something astonishing. The map was not only showing locations, it was transmitting a signal. The message repeated continuously, traveling across vast distances through frequencies unknown to modern science. When the discovery was announced, observatories throughout the galaxy began searching for similar transmissions. To everyone's surprise, they found matching signals coming from deep space beyond the explored frontier. The source appeared unimaginably distant, far outside the borders of every known civilization. Scientists struggled to explain how such a signal could remain active for thousands of years. Some argued it was an ancient beacon. Others feared it might be a warning. June became obsessed with finding the truth. He spent countless nights studying forgotten records and comparing them with the signal data. Piece by piece, a larger picture emerged. Ancient references to humans appeared across dozens of unrelated civilizations. The details varied, but one theme remained consistent. Humanity was always described as explorers who vanished into the darkness between galaxies. No record described their extinction. Instead, the stories suggested they had simply left. Most historians had ignored this detail because it sounded impossible. Yet the evidence was becoming harder to dismiss. Meanwhile, Dominion expansion continued unchecked. Entire sectors fell under military occupation. Refugees flooded neighboring systems. Political leaders demanded action, but the Concord remained divided. Some member species wanted war. Others feared provoking the Dominion further. During one emergency council meeting, alarms suddenly interrupted the proceedings. Long-range sensors stationed near the galactic edge had detected an anomaly unlike anything ever recorded. At first, operators assumed it was a sensor malfunction. The object was too large to be real. Additional scans confirmed the reading. Something enormous was moving toward the galaxy from intergalactic space. News spread rapidly through communication networks. Scientists, military officials, and civilians watched as observatories focused their instruments on the approaching object. The images that arrived left viewers speechless. The object dwarfed planets. It was larger than entire fleets combined. Covered in metallic structures stretching for thousands of kilometers, it resembled a city traveling through the void. No known civilization possessed the resources to construct such a vessel. The Dominion immediately dispatched reconnaissance squadrons. The Concord did the same. Every major government demanded answers. As the mysterious object continued its approach, strange energy signatures surrounded it. Sensors failed to identify the technology involved. Some experts suggested the vessel used principles of physics not yet understood by modern science. Others feared it represented an existential threat. June and Mira watched the reports from their research center, unable to ignore the connection between the vessel and the ancient signal. Every new piece of data pointed toward the same conclusion. The object was traveling directly from the region marked on the ancient star map. The place labeled Terra. Weeks passed as the colossal vessel moved closer. Entire populations became consumed by speculation. Religious groups claimed the arrival fulfilled ancient prophecies. Politicians debated emergency measures. Military forces prepared defensive formations despite knowing they would be useless against something so massive. Then another discovery shook the galaxy. The mysterious vessel emitted communication pulses identical to the signal hidden within the ancient ruins. The same message that had traveled across space for thousands of years now originated from the approaching giant. June felt a chill as the evidence finally aligned. The ancient map, the forgotten legends, the impossible signal, and the colossal ship were all connected. Humanity had never disappeared. Humanity had been somewhere else. On the frontier, Dominion commanders grew nervous. High Commander Day publicly dismissed the object as a threat that could be conquered like any other enemy, but private reports revealed growing concern among his officers. No fleet could match the vessel's size. No weapon could be guaranteed to damage it. As the giant crossed the outer boundary of the galaxy, every major sensor network focused on its movements. Then, without warning, hundreds of additional signals appeared behind it. They were faint and extremely distant, but they existed. Analysts quickly realized the terrifying truth. The colossal vessel was not alone. Something else was following it through the darkness. Before anyone could determine what those distant signatures represented, the giant vessel slowed near the edge of a frontier system and entered a stable orbit around an uninhabited star. Millions watched live broadcasts from across the galaxy. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the vessel released a burst of energy so powerful that communication arrays throughout multiple sectors detected it instantly. A transmission spread across thousands of worlds at the speed of light. The message had not yet been translated, but the structure matched the ancient language found in the ruins. June and Mira stood before their monitors, hearts racing as automated systems struggled to decode the signal. Around them, researchers worked frantically while military fleets gathered near the frontier. The galaxy held its breath. After 10,000 years of stories, arguments, and forgotten legends, humanity was no longer a myth hiding in dusty archives. Something had arrived from beyond the stars, and its presence threatened to rewrite history itself. The mysterious transmission spread across the galaxy and left billions waiting for answers. Inside research centers, military command stations, and government halls, everyone watched the giant vessel that floated silently near the frontier star. June and Mira stood among hundreds of scientists as decoding systems worked without rest. After several tense hours, the first translated words finally appeared on the central display. The room fell silent. The message was simple and direct. This is the Human Exploration Armada. We request identification of local governing authorities. For several seconds, nobody moved. Some scientists thought the translation had failed. Others stared at the words as if they were a dream. The impossible truth was now impossible to deny. Humans were real. They had survived. More importantly, they had returned. Across the Galactic Concord, emergency meetings began immediately. Leaders who had spent their entire lives dismissing humanity as a myth suddenly found themselves facing a living civilization that appeared older and more advanced than any known species. News networks interrupted all broadcasts. Citizens gathered in homes, public squares, and communication centers to hear every update. The story spread faster than any event in recorded history. Humanity, the legendary race from forgotten stories, had arrived from beyond the galaxy. June could hardly believe it. He remembered reading ancient texts that described humans as explorers who traveled where no one else dared. Most scholars had laughed at those stories. Now those same stories seemed closer to historical records than legends. Within a day, the Galactic Concord organized an official response. A diplomatic fleet was assembled and sent toward the massive vessel. The mission was led by Ambassador Hannah, one of the most experienced negotiators in the galaxy. Her orders were simple: establish peaceful contact and learn everything possible. As the diplomatic fleet approached, sensors revealed details of the human vessel that shocked even the most advanced engineers. Entire sections of the ship appeared larger than modern cities. Energy readings suggested power levels beyond anything currently understood. Defensive systems surrounded the vessel, yet they remained inactive. There was no sign of hostility. The giant ship simply waited. When Ambassador Hannah's fleet entered communication range, a channel opened automatically. A calm voice greeted them in perfect Concord standard. The translators had not even needed to work. The human systems had already analyzed and learned the language. Hannah introduced herself and explained the structure of the Galactic Concord. For a moment there was silence. Then the human representative responded. His name was Captain Kong. His voice sounded calm, polite, and completely confident. He explained that the vessel was an exploration ship belonging to the Human Exploration Armada. The mission had originally begun thousands of years earlier when humanity departed the galaxy to explore distant regions of the universe. During their travels, they maintained automated monitoring stations throughout their former home galaxy. Recently, several stations had reported unusual levels of conflict and instability. In response, the exploration fleet had returned to investigate. The statement stunned everyone listening. If this enormous vessel was merely an exploration ship, what would a true human warship look like? While diplomats exchanged information, military leaders studied every piece of data they could gather. Dominion intelligence officers were especially interested. High Commander Day viewed the arrival very differently from the Concord. He saw an opportunity and a threat. If the humans were truly powerful, they could interfere with his plans for galactic domination. If they could be defeated, however, their technology might become the greatest prize in history. Day ordered spies and reconnaissance ships toward the frontier. Their mission was to discover weaknesses in the human vessel. Days passed. Human and Concord representatives continued peaceful discussions. Captain Kong shared limited information about humanity while avoiding sensitive topics. He confirmed that humans had expanded far beyond the galaxy and established settlements across multiple regions of space. He also confirmed that humanity had not expected to find such dramatic political changes upon returning. Despite the friendly talks, tension continued to grow. Dominion leaders became increasingly nervous as reports showed the human ship's capabilities exceeded every prediction. Reconnaissance vessels vanished whenever they attempted unauthorized scans. Not destroyed, simply disabled and returned to their starting positions without explanation. Human technology appeared capable of controlling battles before they even began. Day interpreted this restraint as weakness. He convinced himself that the humans were bluffing. In his view, no civilization would possess overwhelming power and refuse to use it. Meanwhile, June and Mira received special permission to visit the diplomatic fleet. Their research had helped prove humanity's existence, and Captain Kong personally requested to meet them. The invitation shocked both scientists. When they finally entered the enormous vessel, they were amazed. The interior looked both advanced and familiar. Human architecture felt practical rather than intimidating. Large corridors stretched through sections of the ship. Gardens filled entire chambers. Artificial skies glowed above parks where human families walked peacefully. June had expected cold military efficiency. Instead, he found a civilization that valued life and comfort even while traveling among the stars. During the meeting, Captain Kong thanked them for preserving fragments of humanity's history. He explained that many ancient monitoring stations had failed over time, causing records to become fragmented. Without researchers like June and Mira, much of humanity's connection to its origins might have been lost forever. The conversation lasted several hours and revealed fascinating details about human culture. Yet Captain Kong avoided discussing military matters. Every time the topic approached human defenses or weapons, he politely changed the subject. That only increased curiosity across the galaxy. Then the situation suddenly changed. Dominion scouts finally completed their analysis and delivered their findings to High Commander Day. Unfortunately for the Dominion, the report contained very little useful information. The vessel's defenses could not be measured accurately. Its weapons remained hidden. Its power systems operated according to principles unknown to modern science. Furious at the lack of answers, Day made a decision that alarmed even his own advisors. He would force the humans to reveal their strength. Against the warnings of several commanders, he ordered a battle fleet to move toward the frontier. Hundreds of warships entered the system where the human vessel remained stationed. The sight of so many armed ships immediately triggered panic throughout the galaxy. Diplomatic channels flooded with protests. The Galactic Concord demanded that the Dominion withdraw. Day ignored every message. Captain Kong responded with remarkable calm. He opened direct communication with the Dominion fleet and requested an explanation for their actions. Day himself appeared on the screen. He accused the humans of secretly preparing an invasion and demanded unrestricted access to their technology. Captain Kong listened quietly before delivering a simple answer. Humanity sought peace. Humanity had no interest in conquest. Humanity would not surrender its technology. The discussion ended there. Dominion warships formed attack positions around the massive vessel. Across the galaxy, billions watched live transmissions from news networks. Fear spread rapidly. Many believed they were about to witness the beginning of a war unlike anything in history. June and Mira watched from the diplomatic fleet, unable to hide their concern. They had seen enough of the human vessel to understand that humanity was not afraid. That confidence worried them more than any display of aggression could have. Captain Kong sent one final message to the Dominion fleet. His voice remained calm and respectful. He stated that humanity had no desire for conflict and requested immediate withdrawal. He also warned that any attack would be considered an act of war. Day laughed openly during the transmission. He believed the humans were trying to intimidate him. To prove his strength, he ordered his ships to prepare weapons. Hundreds of energy cannons powered up simultaneously. Missile systems locked onto the giant vessel. The entire galaxy watched in silence. Human diplomats remained calm. Human crew members continued their duties without panic. Captain Kong gave no sign of concern. Then he issued one final warning. For the safety of your personnel, stand down immediately. Day refused. Seconds later, the Dominion fleet opened fire. Thousands of weapons unleashed their energy at once, flooding space with light bright enough to outshine the nearby star. Across countless worlds, citizens watched the attack and wondered if the legends of humanity were about to end the moment they had returned. No one yet understood that the real story was only beginning. The moment the Dominion fleet opened fire, space itself seemed to disappear beneath a storm of light. Thousands of energy beams, plasma streams, and missiles raced toward the massive human vessel. Across the galaxy, billions watched the live broadcasts, expecting explosions powerful enough to shatter entire fleets. June and Mira stood frozen inside the diplomatic command center as sensor screens filled with warning symbols. Even experienced military officers held their breath. The attack was the largest single strike many of them had ever witnessed. For several long seconds, the human vessel vanished inside a glowing cloud of destruction. Then the light faded. Silence swept through every command room, every news station, and every world connected to the transmission. The human ship remained exactly where it had been. Not a single visible mark appeared on its surface. The shields had not even activated. The giant vessel looked completely untouched, as if the attack had never happened. Shock spread through the Dominion fleet. Officers stared at their instruments, convinced something had malfunctioned. High Commander Day immediately ordered a second strike. This time, every weapon fired at maximum power. Once again, energy flooded space. Once again, the human vessel remained unharmed. Captain Kong appeared on every communication channel. His expression showed disappointment rather than anger. He calmly informed the Dominion that they had violated peaceful contact protocols and attacked without justification. He repeated his request for immediate withdrawal. Day refused. Furious and embarrassed, he ordered all ships to continue firing. What happened next changed galactic history forever. Without warning, every Dominion weapon system shut down simultaneously. Energy cannons went silent. Missile launchers stopped functioning. Targeting computers turned dark. Entire warships lost control of their engines. Across hundreds of vessels, alarms sounded as systems failed one after another. Panic spread through Dominion crews. Engineers rushed to diagnose the problem, but nothing appeared damaged. It was as though an invisible hand had simply switched everything off. The human vessel had not fired a single visible weapon. It had merely disabled an entire fleet in seconds. Captain Kong spoke again. He explained that humanity preferred not to destroy lives when other options existed. The Dominion crews would be allowed to return home once safety checks were completed. Day could hardly believe what had happened. His fleet had been defeated without suffering a single casualty. The humiliation was worse than destruction. Across the galaxy, citizens reacted with amazement. Many had expected a devastating battle. Instead, humanity had demonstrated power beyond imagination while showing extraordinary restraint. June realized that the ancient stories had never truly captured how advanced humans had become. If this was their idea of a peaceful response, nobody could guess what their full military strength looked like. Over the following days, disabled Dominion vessels were carefully restored and released. Human technicians even repaired several damaged ships before sending them home. The gesture stunned observers. Instead of seeking revenge, humanity had chosen mercy. Public opinion across the Concord shifted dramatically. Many worlds that had feared the arrival of humans now began viewing them as protectors. Diplomatic relations expanded rapidly. Human representatives met with scientists, historians, and government leaders from countless species. During one of these meetings, Captain Kong shared part of humanity's history. Thousands of years earlier, humans had achieved technologies that allowed them to cross the empty darkness between galaxies. Rather than remaining confined to a single region of space, they had launched massive exploration programs into the unknown. Entire fleets disappeared beyond the frontier in search of knowledge. Humanity's population spread across distant galaxies, creating new settlements and learning from civilizations far older than themselves. Yet despite their expansion, humans never forgot Earth or their original home galaxy. Automated monitoring stations quietly observed developments from afar. Most remained hidden and inactive for centuries. Recently, however, multiple stations had detected rising conflict levels, unusual military activity, and the rapid growth of the Dominion. Those warnings had convinced the human exploration armada to return and investigate. The explanation fascinated researchers like June and Mira. It also raised troubling questions. If the vessel near the frontier was only an exploration ship, how large was the actual human civilization? Nobody knew the answer. Captain Kong avoided discussing population numbers or military resources. Even so, scattered details painted a remarkable picture. Human settlements existed across enormous regions of space. Their technology had advanced for thousands of uninterrupted years. They possessed knowledge gathered from countless stars and worlds. Some analysts began suggesting that humanity might already be the most powerful civilization in existence. While peaceful talks continued, long-range observatories noticed something unusual. Additional energy signatures were appearing beyond the galaxy. At first, the signals seemed insignificant. They were weak and extremely distant. Yet their numbers increased every day. Scientists soon realized they were detecting ships. Thousands of ships. Then tens of thousands. The discoveries were initially kept secret to avoid public panic, but information eventually leaked. Once it did, fear spread quickly. Were these reinforcements? Was humanity preparing an invasion? June and Mira confronted Captain Kong directly during a diplomatic conference. They trusted him, but they needed answers. Captain Kong listened patiently before smiling. He assured them that humanity had no plans to conquer anyone. The incoming vessels were not an invasion fleet. They were simply responding to updated navigation reports. The explanation provided little comfort because it suggested something even more astonishing. If thousands of ships were merely responding to routine reports, then humanity's presence across space must be far larger than anyone imagined. Weeks passed. The Dominion struggled to recover from its humiliation. High Commander Day publicly blamed technical failures for the defeat, but few believed him. Many Dominion officers had witnessed the truth firsthand. Some even began questioning Day's leadership. Nevertheless, he refused to change course. Secret military projects accelerated. Weapons research divisions worked around the clock. Intelligence agencies searched desperately for any weakness in human technology. Meanwhile, more human vessels continued approaching from deep space. Then one day the frontier monitoring stations reported an event unlike anything previously recorded. Massive gravitational distortions appeared across the outer edge of the galaxy. Hundreds of observatories focused their instruments toward the phenomenon. What they saw left scientists speechless. Space seemed to ripple like water. Vast openings formed within the darkness between stars. Through those openings emerged ships. At first there were dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The numbers increased so rapidly that computer systems struggled to count them. Every vessel displayed designs unlike anything found in the Concorde or Dominion fleets. Some ships were larger than moons. Others stretched across distances that made conventional measurements difficult. They emerged in organized formations that extended farther than sensors could track. News networks broadcast the images across the galaxy. Entire populations watched in stunned silence. Citizens filled public squares. Families gathered around screens. Governments suspended normal operations. Everyone wanted to witness the impossible sight unfolding before them. June and Mira stood inside a frontier observatory surrounded by military officers and scientists. Nobody spoke for several minutes. The scale was beyond comprehension. This was not a fleet. This was a civilization in motion. Reports flooded in from every monitoring station. New arrivals continued appearing hour after hour. Analysts eventually stopped trying to calculate exact numbers. The Armada extended across enormous regions of space. Even the most conservative estimates suggested millions of vessels. Captain Kong finally addressed the galaxy through a public broadcast. His image appeared on screens throughout thousands of worlds. He calmly explained that the arriving ships represented only a portion of the human exploration armada currently operating near the region. Additional fleets remained elsewhere conducting scientific, diplomatic, and exploratory missions. The statement caused another wave of disbelief. If this armada was only a portion of humanity's available forces, then the true scale of their civilization remained unimaginable. For the first time since the arrival of the humans, High Commander Day felt genuine fear. Intelligence reports confirmed what he had desperately hoped was impossible. Humanity possessed resources that made every known military power insignificant by comparison. Yet Captain Kang's next words surprised everyone. Humanity had not come to rule the galaxy. Humanity had come to understand it. They sought cooperation, not domination. They offered friendship, knowledge, and stability. As millions of human vessels continued arriving from the darkness beyond the stars, the people of the galaxy finally understood a truth hidden for 10,000 years. Humans had never vanished. Humans had never died out. They had simply traveled farther than anyone believed possible. And now the legends were returning home. As millions of human ships continued arriving at the edge of the galaxy, a strange feeling spread across the galactic concord. For the first time in centuries, many worlds felt hope. The Dominion had spent years conquering weaker systems, forcing entire populations to live under military rule. Now a power had appeared that even the Dominion could not challenge. Yet while ordinary citizens celebrated, High Commander Day grew more desperate with each passing day. Every intelligence report painted the same picture. Humanity possessed technology far beyond anything known in the galaxy. Their exploration ships alone could disable entire fleets without firing a shot. Their armada stretched across space farther than sensors could measure. Many Dominion officers quietly suggested opening negotiations before the situation became worse. Day refused. Pride and fear controlled his decisions. He believed surrender would destroy everything he had built. Instead, he convinced himself that humanity must have some hidden weakness. Somewhere behind all that power, there had to be a vulnerability. Determined to find it, he ordered the largest military mobilization in Dominion history. Thousands of warships gathered across occupied territories. Massive factories switched to wartime production. New soldiers were recruited from every world under Dominion control. While the preparations continued, Captain Kong and other human representatives expanded diplomatic contact with the Concord. Human scientists exchanged knowledge with local researchers. Human engineers helped repair damaged infrastructure on frontier worlds. Human medical teams provided treatments for diseases that had troubled some species for generations. Everywhere they went, they asked for nothing in return. June and Mira watched these developments closely. The more they learned about humanity, the more surprising the species became. Ancient stories often described humans as fierce warriors, yet the people arriving now seemed focused on helping others. During one meeting aboard a human vessel, Mira asked Captain Kong why humanity was being so generous. The captain smiled before answering. He explained that strength meant little if it only created fear. Humanity had spent thousands of years exploring the universe. Along the way, they had learned that civilizations survived best when they cooperated instead of competed. Those words stayed with Mira long after the meeting ended. Unfortunately, not everyone shared humanity's desire for peace. Deep within Dominion territory, secret military laboratories worked on projects hidden even from senior government officials. Day had invested enormous resources into ancient technologies recovered from forgotten ruins. Many scientists considered the devices unstable and dangerous, but Day ignored every warning. He needed something capable of challenging humanity. As weeks passed, tensions continued rising. Then the first major conflict began. Several Dominion governors refused orders from the central government and attempted to surrender peacefully to the Concord. Day responded by sending military forces to crush the rebellion. Entire colonies came under attack. Civilian populations found themselves trapped between opposing armies. News of the violence spread quickly. The Galactic Concord demanded an immediate ceasefire. Human diplomats made the same request. Day ignored them all. He believed demonstrating strength would discourage further resistance. Instead, it produced the opposite effect. More systems began rebelling against Dominion rule. Refugees fled by the millions. Desperate messages for help reached both Concord and human authorities. Captain Kong finally concluded that inaction would cost countless innocent lives. Humanity could no longer remain neutral. Human fleets entered affected regions and established safe zones around civilian worlds. They evacuated families from active war zones and delivered emergency supplies. Dominion commanders interpreted these actions as interference. Several attempted attacks against human relief convoys. Each attack ended the same way. Weapons stopped functioning. Ships lost power. Human forces disabled threats without causing casualties. Even so, the situation continued worsening. Day viewed every humanitarian mission as an insult to his authority. Convinced that humanity intended to undermine him, he formally declared war. The announcement shocked the galaxy. Many believed the Dominion leader had lost all sense of reality. His empire could barely challenge a single human exploration ship, yet he was now declaring war against an armada containing millions of vessels. Across countless worlds, people feared a catastrophic conflict. Instead, the war unfolded in a way nobody expected. Human fleets advanced with incredible precision. Rather than destroying Dominion worlds, they focused on disabling military infrastructure. Weapons depots vanished from targeting networks. Fleet command systems shut down without warning. Occupied colonies suddenly found their garrisons unable to communicate. Entire battle groups surrendered after discovering their ships could no longer fire. Human commanders seemed capable of predicting every move before it happened. June traveled with several observation teams during these operations. Everywhere he went, he witnessed the same pattern. Human forces protected civilians above all else. When battles occurred near populated areas, human ships redirected attacks away from cities. Medical vessels followed combat groups, providing treatment to wounded soldiers regardless of which side they fought for. Stories about these actions spread rapidly throughout the galaxy. Citizens who once feared humanity now viewed them as guardians. On liberated worlds, celebrations erupted as Dominion occupation forces withdrew. Children waved banners showing both Concord and human symbols. Refugees returned to their homes. For many people, humanity had become a symbol of hope. Day hated every moment of it. His authority was collapsing. Systems left the Dominion almost daily. Military defeats multiplied. Yet he still refused to surrender. Hidden beneath one of the oldest Dominion strongholds, his scientists finally completed work on the project he believed would save his empire. The technology came from an ancient civilization that had vanished long before humanity left the galaxy. Most records describing it had been incomplete. Even the scientists who rebuilt the device did not fully understand how it worked. What they did know was terrifying. The machine could manipulate enormous amounts of stellar energy. In theory, it possessed enough power to destroy entire star systems. When reports of the project reached human intelligence networks, concern spread among senior commanders. This was the first time humanity had encountered something in the galaxy capable of causing damage on a truly massive scale. Captain Kong immediately organized an emergency council involving Concord leaders, scientists, and military experts. June and Mira attended as historical advisors because of their knowledge of ancient civilizations. During the meeting, data from recovered Dominion files was analyzed. The conclusions were alarming. If the weapon functioned as expected, billions of lives could be placed at risk. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity had spent weeks ending battles without bloodshed, but the emergence of this ancient weapon threatened everything. Captain Kong remained calm. He explained that humanity would do everything possible to prevent disaster. However, the situation required immediate action. Human fleets began moving toward the Dominion core regions. Massive formations crossed space with perfect coordination. At the same time, diplomatic channels remained open. Humanity continued offering Day opportunities to surrender peacefully. Every offer was rejected. The Dominion leader had become obsessed with proving humanity could be defeated. As preparations for the final confrontation continued, June received an unexpected invitation from Captain Kong. He and Mira were granted access to historical archives previously unavailable to outsiders. There they discovered the true reason humanity had left the galaxy thousands of years earlier. The answer surprised them. Humans had not departed because of war, disaster, or necessity. They had left by choice. Their civilization had advanced so rapidly that they feared overwhelming younger species. Rather than dominate the galaxy, they chose exploration. They moved outward into the wider universe while quietly watching over their original home from a distance. The revelation changed everything. Humanity had possessed immense power even in ancient times, yet they had willingly stepped aside so others could grow independently. Mira finally understood why modern humans behaved the way they did. Their strength came not only from technology but from thousands of years of experience and restraint. Unfortunately, while these discoveries were being made, Day prepared his final gamble. Deep within Dominion territory, the ancient superweapon completed its activation sequence. Energy levels climbed higher than any sensor had ever recorded. Stars near the testing region began reacting to the machine's power. Across the galaxy, observatories detected unusual fluctuations. Emergency warnings spread from world to world. Scientists confirmed everyone's worst fears. The weapon was real. Worse still, it was nearly operational. Standing inside a command center overlooking the stars, Captain Kong watched incoming reports with a serious expression. For the first time since humanity's arrival, the calm confidence that had defined every operation seemed strained. Beside him, June and Mira studied the data appearing across massive displays. The numbers were staggering. If Day activated the weapon, entire systems could vanish. Billions of innocent lives would depend on what happened next. As human fleets accelerated toward the Dominion core and the superweapon gathered more power with every passing minute, the galaxy realized that the true battle had not yet begun. It was about to begin now. As the ancient superweapon gathered power deep inside Dominion territory, fear spread across the galaxy faster than any fleet could travel. Every major observatory monitored the growing energy readings. Scientists warned that the machine was approaching levels capable of destroying entire star systems. Civilian worlds prepared emergency shelters. Government leaders issued crisis broadcasts. Even veteran military commanders struggled to hide their concern. For the first time since humanity had returned, billions feared that not even the human exploration Armada could stop what was coming. Inside the human flagship, Captain Kong studied the latest reports with calm determination. Around him, thousands of officers coordinated fleets spread across vast regions of space. June and Mira remained at the command center, helping analyze ancient records connected to the weapon. The more information they uncovered, the more dangerous the situation appeared. The civilization that originally built the machine had vanished thousands of years ago, possibly because of the same technology they had created. The weapon was never meant to be activated. It had been abandoned as too dangerous even for its creators. Yet High Commander Day had ignored every warning. He believed the machine would force humanity to retreat and restore his control over the galaxy. Instead, he was risking the lives of billions. Human fleets accelerated toward the Dominion core. Across countless star systems, enormous formations moved with perfect coordination. Millions of ships crossed space like rivers of light. Despite the urgency, Captain Kong gave strict orders that civilian populations were not to be harmed. Every operation focused on disabling military targets and protecting inhabited worlds. As the Armada advanced, Dominion defenses collapsed one after another. Entire battle groups surrendered without fighting. Many commanders no longer trusted Day's leadership. They had watched humanity show mercy again and again while Day pushed the galaxy toward disaster. Some Dominion officers even began secretly sharing intelligence with the Concord and the humans. Through these reports, Captain Kong learned the exact location of the superweapon. It was hidden within a heavily fortified system surrounded by the last loyal Dominion fleets. More importantly, activation was only hours away. There was no time left for slow negotiations. Humanity launched its final operation. Thousands of specialized ships jumped directly toward the target system while support fleets established protective barriers around nearby civilian worlds. The movement was so precise that observers later described it as a single coordinated action rather than millions of separate decisions. June watched the operation unfold through tactical displays and realized he was witnessing history. This was not merely a battle. It was the moment that would decide the future of the galaxy. When the human fleets arrived, they encountered the largest defensive force the Dominion had ever assembled. Tens of thousands of warships guarded the system. Massive orbital platforms surrounded the superweapon. Energy shields covered entire sections of space. Yet even then, Captain Kong transmitted one final offer. He called upon Day to surrender peacefully and deactivate the machine. The response arrived moments later. Day rejected the offer and ordered every available weapon to fire. The final battle began. Across the system, light erupted as Dominion forces launched attacks from every direction. Human ships responded immediately, but not with destruction. Advanced systems disrupted enemy targeting networks, disabled engines, and neutralized weapons. Entire squadrons found themselves unable to continue fighting. Others surrendered after realizing resistance was hopeless. Still, the superweapon continued charging. Deep within the central fortress, Day personally supervised activation procedures. His advisors begged him to stop. Some warned that the machine was becoming unstable. Others pointed out that the battle was already lost. Day ignored them all. Pride had blinded him completely. He would rather destroy the galaxy than admit failure. As activation neared completion, Mira discovered something hidden within the ancient records. The superweapon relied on a central energy matrix vulnerable to a specific type of disruption. If the matrix could be reached, the machine could be shut down without triggering a catastrophic explosion. The challenge was getting close enough. The fortress remained protected by powerful defenses. Captain Kong immediately approved a daring plan. A small group of human ships would penetrate the fortress perimeter while larger fleets distracted the remaining defenses. The mission carried enormous risks, but there were no alternatives. The strike team entered the battle zone at incredible speed. Dominion weapons targeted them from every direction. Yet the human vessels moved with extraordinary precision, slipping through gaps that seemed impossible. June and Mira watched from the command center as the ships approached the heart of the fortress. Every second mattered. Energy readings from the superweapon continued rising. Entire stars near the system were beginning to react to the machine's power. Then the strike team reached the central matrix. Specialized devices were deployed directly into the energy network. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Across the galaxy, millions waited in silence. Suddenly the energy readings stopped climbing. Then they began falling. Cheers erupted throughout the command center. The disruption had worked. The superweapon was shutting down. Unfortunately, Day refused to accept defeat. In desperation, he attempted a manual override. The unstable machine reacted immediately. Warning alarms spread through the fortress. Sections of the structure began failing. The ancient technology was collapsing under its own power. Captain Kong acted without hesitation. Human rescue teams entered the fortress and evacuated everyone they could reach, including Dominion personnel. Many of the very soldiers who had fought against humanity were saved by human crews. Minutes later, the damaged sections of the facility collapsed inward. The superweapon was destroyed forever. The battle ended almost instantly. Remaining Dominion fleets surrendered. Communications from across the Empire confirmed the same result. Day's government had fallen. The war was over. News of the victory spread throughout the galaxy. On liberated worlds, celebrations lasted for days. Families reunited after years of separation. Refugees returned home. Cities once occupied by Dominion forces filled with music, lights, and public gatherings. For many people, it felt as though a dark age had finally ended. Yet the most remarkable part came afterward. Humanity claimed no territory. They demanded no tribute. They established no empire. Instead, Captain Kong and other leaders helped organize a new alliance between the Galactic Concord and former Dominion worlds. The goal was simple: prevent future conflicts and encourage cooperation. Human engineers assisted in rebuilding damaged infrastructure. Human scientists shared carefully selected technologies that improved medicine, agriculture, transportation, and energy production. Every gift was offered freely. Over time, trust grew stronger than anyone had imagined possible. June and Mira became famous throughout the galaxy because their discoveries had helped reveal the truth about humanity's existence. Years later, they were invited to Earth itself. The journey fulfilled a dream neither had ever expected to achieve. When they finally arrived, they found a world both ancient and beautiful. Oceans stretched beneath blue skies. Great cities stood beside preserved natural landscapes. Humanity had never forgotten its origins. Earth remained the heart of a civilization that now spanned unimaginable distances. During their visit, June stood beside Captain Kong and looked toward the stars. He remembered the day he had uncovered the ancient map hidden beneath forgotten ruins. At that time, humanity had seemed like a myth, a legend buried beneath thousands of years of doubt. Now the truth stood before him. Humanity was real. Humanity was powerful. Yet more importantly, humanity had chosen wisdom over conquest. In the years that followed, schools across the galaxy rewrote their history books. Children learned about Earth, the ancient explorers, and the Armada that had returned from beyond the stars. Stories once dismissed as fantasy became accepted history. New generations grew up hearing how humans had arrived not as conquerors but as protectors. Statues honoring the Alliance appeared on countless worlds. Trade flourished. Exploration missions expanded into regions previously considered unreachable. Together, humanity and the civilizations of the galaxy entered an era of peace unlike anything known before. And whenever young students asked how the Age of Unity began, teachers would tell them about the day the legends returned. For 10,000 years, the galaxy searched for proof that humans had ever existed. In the end, proof arrived not as a single ship or a forgotten relic, but as an armada so vast that it seemed to cover the stars themselves, and with it came a simple lesson that history would never forget. True greatness is not measured by the power to rule others, but by the strength to protect them.